Al, it's time to talk about a very infamous game
Mm-hmm.
that people either really love or really hate.
Yep.
There's really no just like middle ground here.
No.
So you're on one side of the fence or you're on the other.
I mean, unless you consider us, we might be middle ground. I don't know. Depends on what you think about it.
Maybe. I feel like that would make the most. It would make the most sense compared to the other two, I guess.
Yeah, like it's not the greatest game we've ever played, but it's not the
No,
worst game we've ever played either.
no,
It's kind of a middle ground.
yes.
But,
Uh,
sometimes that doesn't happen. We are
yes.
unusual.
We are very unusual. That is true, and that's for sure. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Ladium.
Hello.
This is episode number 270, and we're going to talk about Shenmue,
Shenmue.
the first game in the Shenmue series.
Uh-huh. We played through it together.
We did. We played through the re-release, not the original Dreamcast version.
Yeah,
That would
that
be a
would be
little bit
hard.
more tougher,
Yeah.
but basically still the same game for the most part. Like we mentioned, a lot of people there's big fans of this game, and there are people who are like, this game is god awful trash. It's just one way or the other. It's a very weird game that introduced a lot of systems that people just weren't really sure how to take at the time.
hmm
Like I think nowadays people are more understanding of it, but at the time it was very memed upon because of the systems it was giving out and just how essentially it's a Japanese adventure game under the guise of a quasi open world game.
Yes. As
And people
open world as you really got in what, 1999?
1999, yeah. So it's like a lot of people are just like, I don't get this. What is this? How does this work? And that kind of opinion still permeates to this day in some cases.
hmm
So it was interesting to go into this because like I have very little experience with this game
Yeah, I
outside
didn't.
of like seeing people's opinions about it and all that sort of stuff.
That's all I've really seen is like opinions and memes.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, I didn't really know a whole lot about it.
So we were like, let's go into this. This game originally came out on the Dreamcast in Japan on December 29th, 1999, and then a year later in North America and Europe on November 8th, 2000 and December 1st, 2000 respectively. And then a re-release version with Shenmue 2 came out on PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4 on August 21st, 2018, and in Japan on November 22nd, 2018. So this game's old. This game's going to be 23 years old this year.
Wow. This is
If you
this
want to feel
is
old.
getting to be the point where like they're gonna graduate from the point where I would be teaching them.
It's true.
Yeah, that's wild and
It's very funny. Um, this game, of course, infamously made by Yu Suzuki, who had made Virtua Fighter, Outrun, those very famous Sega arcade games.
hmm
He was the head of Sega AM2 at the time, or like one of the big heads at it. Other notable people who worked on this game,
Okay.
especially as composers, Takenobu Mitsuyoshi, who you might know as the guy who did the Daytona USA theme,
Daytona.
that song in particular. Also was a composer on this game, Yuzo Koshiro, who did like the ActRaiser soundtrack and also does things with Korone.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
is he that one?
Yes.
Okay. I know what you're talking about now.
And also a person who worked as director and producer on this game, one Toshihiro Nagoshi, who would go on to work on such games as, the Yakuza series.
The Yakuza series, which like, woo, you can definitely feel that influence.
Yes. Also, he did an interview at some point recently talking about his time on Shenmue,
Oh, did he?
which I will pull some quotes here from. He said he was a supervisor on the team at first, and as the project progressed, as you know, it had become bigger and bigger, and I couldn't put up with it anymore. It was one of the turning points in my career. He was like, I talked to Yu Suzuki. I want my own development division. And they're like, sure, you can do it. But then the CEO was like, hey, we need to get this game out. You got to come back and help us finish this game.
And then he ended up making Yakuza, which was even bigger than this.
Well, he went on to make Monkey Ball and then Yakuza.
Yeah, you know, that career trajectory.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Interesting little turn of events there. But yeah, as you said, like, there's obviously an influence here that, like, you know, you can see the trajectory of the path that, like, this game gives you, and then you get to the Yakuza series later on.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, some interesting notable names on this project. But let's dive into the development history of this game, because it is weird to say the least.
I am not surprised by that, honestly.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Yu Suzuki is the person who made this game. He joined Sega in 1983, made a bunch of arcade games, but he also wanted to make like a long game, let's say, not an arcade experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where this idea of his comes about. Sega AM2 built a prototype Sega Saturn game in sometime when the Sega Saturn was happening, called The Old Man in the Peach Tree, which was about a young man, Taro, seeking a martial arts grandmaster in 1950s Luoyang, China. Taro brings an old man a peach in exchange for information about the grandmaster, and at the end of the game, the man skillfully skips stones across water to hunt fish, revealing that he is the grandmaster.
Wait, you can skip stones to hunt fish?
Apparently.
Isn't that it? Wouldn't that just be fishing and not hunting fish?
I don't ask me. Don't ask the Wikipedia writers.
Okay.
In 1996, AM2 began developing a 3D Saturn RPG with the working title Guppy. This became Virtua Fighter RPG Akira's Story, an RPG starring the Virtua Fighter character Akira. AMT planned a cinematic approach, including voice acting and elaborate combat sequences. Suzuki researched locations in China and constructed 4 acts with the themes sadness, fight, departure, and starting afresh. In this version of the story, Akira would overcome his grief following his father's death, travel to China, defeat an antagonist, and begin a new journey with a friend.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Suzuki recruited a screenwriter, a playwright, and film directors to write the multi-part story, which IGN described as a revenge epic in the tradition of Chinese cinema. In 1997, development moved to Sega's upcoming console, the Dreamcast. In 1998, Sega of America Vice President Bernie Stolar told Next Generation, I can't tell you what Suzuki-san is working on. Let's just say that I've seen the project and it's going to rock the gaming world. The same year, to better market the game as a Dreamcast killer app, the Virtua Fighter connection was dropped and Suzuki announced the working title of Project Berkeley. In November, Sega announced that Shenmue was so unique it belonged to a new genre it termed Full Reactive Eyes Entertainment, or Free.
That title's still stupid.
So good.
Full Reactive Eyes Entertainment.
It's a free game.
It's a free game.
Yeah. By the time of the Dreamcast release in Japan in November 1998, the game had been titled Shenmue.
I still don't know what that means.
There's a screenshot on Wikipedia that is from when it was still the Virtua Fighter RPG on Saturn, and this is basically just the harbor. And
yeah.
That's Rio, and then that's the toupee man.
The Gui, whatever his name is.
Guizhang?
Does toupee man.
That's just that.
That's just that, yeah. Yeah, that's what that is, including the like outfit.
Mm-hmm. It's wild.
Amazing.
AM2 focused on developing the game world, creating a large open environment with minigames and subquests. The setting is modeled on Dobuita in Yokosuka, Japan. The team worked with interior decorators to design more than 1,200 rooms and locations and created over 300 characters with their own names, personalities, and relationships, some modeled on Sega employees, with detailed clay models as animation references. Meteorological records of 1986 Yokosuka were used to create algorithmically generated weather and day and night cycles. Cutscenes are rendered in real time without full motion video, and motion capture was used to capture the movements of Budo, a Japanese martial art experts. To fit the material onto a manageable number of disks, AMT developed a new type of data compression. So they
wild
were
that you have to
in.
like create a new type of compression just to fit your game on disks.
Yeah.
But yeah, the meteorological records thing, like that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Um, I I, I think that the 300 characters with their own names, personalities, and relationships. It's a little debatable whether they have personalities.
Or if like all of that made it into the game.
Correct.
So they were definitely going into uncharted territories.
But they
Let's
were like
say.
shooting for the moon here. Like
Hmm.
that's legit.
Yeah, definitely. In 1999, AM2 focused on fixing bugs, finding hundreds each day.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I can imagine. At the time, there were no bug tracking systems, so the team tracked bugs with Excel spreadsheets. At one point, they had tracked over 10,000 unresolved bugs.
Oh my god, with an Excel spreadsheet.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
That's,
On one occasion,
oh,
several non-paleo characters became trapped in the convenience store where they had gone as part of their scripted routines. Suzuki's solution was to widen the store's door.
everybody wants to go to Tomato Mart.
It's true. The product placement of Coca-Cola and Timex brands also created problems as the companies had strict specifications for their implementation. Suzuki said the biggest challenge was management, with over 300 staff and no experience of large projects. Which I guess is why they had to get Nagoshi back and be like, "Hey, can you help us fix this game and get it out there? We are in dire straits."
We need help real bad.
Oh no.
Oh man.
According to the localizer Jeremy Blostein.
How did I just
Yeah.
saw an interview with him.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, he's pretty cool.
Shenmue's English localization was fraught with problems exacerbated by the project's scale. At Suzuki's insistence, the English voices were recorded in Japan, which greatly restricted the casting.
Oh.
Yeah. Blostein said, "We hired basically every single English-speaking person that exists in Japan and calls themselves a voice actor." The scripts were translated by several people, creating consistency problems, and arrived late, leaving no time for rewrites or proper direction.
That explains what's his name, Mark at the harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that explains a lot.
Shenmue became the most expensive game ever developed at the time, reported to have cost Sega $70 million.
Oof.
In 2011, Suzuki said the figure was close to $47 million, including marketing. Development also covered some of Shenmue 2, which was completed for a smaller amount, and groundwork for future Shenmue games. Now let's see how that compares today in terms of what is the most expensive game that's out there. We got Star Citizen, which is not a game, that's just a grift.
Yep.
Cyberpunk is second, with a development cost of $174 million. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Final Fantasy 7, Halo 2, Destiny, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Dead Space 2, Grand Theft Auto 4, and then Shenmue.
Wow. Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 7 remake?
Original FF7.
Wow.
This basically uses like this chart of theirs on Wikipedia uses like development and marketing if it's both together.
Oh,
And
that
then they
makes
also
sense.
use that for like how is this in terms of like inflation.
Yeah.
So like Final Fantasy 7 apparently was 80 to 145 million, and that's 129 to 234 million dollars 2 years ago. Shenmue was 47 to 70, and that's 73 to 109 million dollars today. So yeah, still up there in terms of high costing games, as you would say.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, they, like you said, they were ambitious. They were shooting for the moon, and somehow they made it all come together and put it out. But also they had to promote it and release it. So let's see how they did that.
I'm still just amazed by the whole English speaking voice acting thing.
It makes a lot of sense.
It makes so much sense.
They must have got like the worst booth that they could have gotten, considering how the audio quality sounds.
Everybody sounds like they're just speaking through like 10 cups.
It's true. Oh boy. On November 27, 1998, Sega released the Dreamcast in Japan. Launch game Virtua Fighter 3 TB, also directed by Suzuki, included a preview disc of Shenmue featuring FMV scenes and an interview with Suzuki, but no gameplay footage. On December 20th, 1998, Sega unveiled Shenmue at a conference in the Yokohama International Assembly Hall and demonstrated its clock, weather, and QuickTime event systems. Fans could watch the conference online, which is very surprising for 1998.
Yeah, wow. Wow.
Initial reactions were positive, with Edge saying it could be one of the most ambitious and important video game endeavors of the decade. However, the QuickTime events angered some fans who had assumed the game would only use Virtua Fighter-style battles. Huh. Sega announced a Japanese release for the second quarter of 1999. At the Tokyo Game Show in March 1999, Sega announced that Shenmue would span multiple games and allowed the public to play the first game for the first time. At a Japanese consumer show on May 3rd, 1999, Sega demonstrated the facial animation and announced the non-playable characters would have their own daily routines. Later that month, Sega showed Shenmue in America for the first time at the 1999 Game Developers Conference, and it was playable the following week at the E3 Trade Fair in Los Angeles.
Whoa.
At a Japanese consumer conference on June 1st, 1999, Sega announced a Shenmue promotion to coincide with a Dreamcast price drop. Sega distributed a limited edition video, What's Shenmue?, with Dreamcast consoles and games, and a playable demo from August 1st. The spoof demo has Ryo search a small area of Yokosuka for Sega, then managing director Hidekazu Yukawa. All right. On June 22nd, Sega announced a Shenmue subway tour showing playable demos at Japanese train stations that August. All right.
Wow.
NHK spent 6 months with the development team and broadcast a making-of documentary about the game before its release. I wonder if that's like out there anywhere.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see that.
And Sega released the game on December 29th, 1999 in Japan, November 2000 in North America, and December 1st, 2000 in Europe. And then sales-wise, it sold 260,000 copies in its first week. It eventually sold 1.2 million copies, became the Dreamcast's fourth best-selling games of all time. However, its sales did not cover its development costs, and analysis considered it a major commercial failure. It followed years of declining profits for Sega and contributed to Sega's exit from the game console market. US Gamer wrote that though Shenmue sales would have been a success for most games, only an impossible number of sales would have seen Shenmue turn a profit. It's like when Square puts out a game and then they're like, yeah, this game didn't meet our sales projections, which was like 1 billion copies.
Yep.
Shucks. According to Games Radar, every Dreamcast owner would have needed to buy Shenmue twice for it to turn a profit. And so, ironically, it probably did as much to kill a Dreamcast as it did to cement its reputation.
Wow.
The Shenmue localizer Jeremy Blostein likened the failure to the epic 1980 film Heaven's Gate, which went drastically over budget and was a commercial failure. Suzuki was coming off of huge past successes and he was the man. And so this was going to be the thing. And everyone wanted a piece of that $70 million, you know. And of course, that's like the worst thing you could do, is to start out a project saying, we've got all this money, and then just keep throwing more money at it. Peter Moore, then president of Sega of America, said Shenmue sold extremely well, but could not make a profit due to the Dreamcast's limited install base. Dreamcast engineer Hideki Sato defended Shenmue as an investment which will someday be recouped, because the lessons learned during development could be applied to other games, which is true.
Not wrong.
But didn't help the Dreamcast. It just would, be something that people would learn from years down the line.
Right.
Critically, it holds an 89% on game rankings. Of the review scores that Wikipedia highlights, like the only ones that are like you would think are kind of like lower than average are Game Informer 6 out of 10, and that's basically it. Like everything else is at least like a high 7 to an 8 or a 9.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's not like this was getting bad reviews at the time.
No. And like this says critics praise its graphics. Like it really does look pretty dang good.
Mm-hmm.
Like even now, like it's obviously aged, but it looks pretty good, especially compared to stuff that came out around that time otherwise. But yeah, like I'm still mind blown by the whole idea of like, hey, let's put in this like meteorological information for funsies. And Mark, the voice actor for Mark.
I wonder how, like, I'm assuming the re-releases probably got worse scores because, as time has gone on, people have been less nice to this game, let's say.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Let's see here. On Metacritic, it has a 75 for the dual pack. So
Really?
I guess it's not terrible. It's better than what I would have expected. There's also, there's some not so great reviews here and there of it. So, the PC version has something, if I could clicks, a 76. And the Xbox One version has a 72. So like, I mean, that's probably what you would kind of expect. In all honesty, um, this also mentions how like this game was very influential in terms of like QTEs becoming a big thing later on down the road, open world games becoming more of a thing later on down the road. So, I mean that's true, very true. Also, Suzuki planned Shenmue to cover at least 4 games. Shenmue 2, developed simultaneously with Shenmue, was released in 2001 in Japan and Europe, and 2002 in North America. It was also a commercial failure.
Whoops.
And then Shenmue 3 entered a period of development hell lasting over a decade. In 2004, Sega announced an MMORPG for PC set in the Shenmue world, Shenmue Online, but it was never released. And in 2010, Sega announced another spin-off, Shenmue City, a social game for the Yahoo Mobage mobile service. It was shut down in late 2011.
Oh my god.
In September 2011, Suzuki left Sega to focus on his development team, EaseNet. At the E3 conference on June 15, 2015, he announced a Kickstarter for Shenmue 3. The campaign reached its initial 2 million goal in just under 9 hours. And on July 17, 2015, it became the fastest funded and highest funded video game project in Kickstarter history, earning $6.3 million. And then Shenmue 3 eventually came out. So there you go. Here's a bit of stuff on the ports. A remake of Shenmue and Shenmue 2 featuring new models, textures, and lighting was canceled in 2017 following technical problems. On April 21st, 2018, Sega released high-definition ports of Shenmue and Shenmue 2 for Windows PC or Windows PS4 and Xbox One. The ports include new graphics and control options, improved user interfaces, and Japanese and English voices. Some details, such as product placement, are omitted, and cutscenes are presented in their original aspect ratio due to technical limitations. The ports were released in Japan on November 22nd, 2018, and debuted at number 4 on the Japanese charts with 37,529 retail sales on PS4. They remained among the top 20 best-selling games in Japan until December 2nd, 2018, having sold almost 45,000 copies. So yeah, like, people still really like these games, 20 years after the fact. Even, like, obviously, I think probably the Japanese... I guess I don't know, because, like, when you think of it in terms of, like, over here, it is a very memed upon game.
Yes.
It's very divisive in terms of how people view it and all that sort of stuff. Considering, like, it was still selling really well in Japan when they put out the re-releases, I would guess, like, there's still a big, prominent fan base of it over there. But I don't know, like, how, like, if it has that same kind of divisive opinions that it has over here, over there.
That's a good question.
I do like the thing, though, that people were mad that there was QTEs, and they're like, oh, I just want Virtua Fighter gameplay. What's this?
Yeah, that's wild.
That's very funny. So, yeah, all of that out of the way, they're also making an anime which is airing right now. We played through this game. And I think if you look at this game as, what it's supposed to be, which is, it's a Japanese adventure game with Virtua Fighter combat mechanics, you'll come to understand it better. And I think if you play through it with a guide, you'll have a better time than if you try and do it by yourself, if we're being honest.
Yeah. I mean, like, some of those triggers, I don't know how you would ever find them.
It's very obtuse, but, like, that's just the way, like, those kinds of games were.
Right.
Especially, 15 years prior when Japanese adventure games were, like, starting up and all that sort of stuff. Like, very obtuse mechanics, very obtuse, puzzle solving and all that sort of stuff. And that's kind of just what this game kind of feeds off of, is that aspect of that genre.
It apparently does, which we didn't run into this because I had a guide pulled up. But it apparently does give you hints if you're just, like, completely struggling to figure it out.
Right.
Like, somebody will tell you, like, hey, have you done this? Or, like, you'll get a phone call or something like that. Like, they don't completely leave you on your own, and they give you a significant amount of time to get through it. Because I think it's, like, December to April.
Yeah.
In game. But, like, we finished it, I think, before we even finished December. Thanks, guide. But yeah, there were some things I was like, whoa, I have no idea how you would figure this out unless you were just, like, wandering and playing, taking notes, wandering around, playing it multiple times. Like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. There are definitely parts of this game that I don't think have aged particularly well, but there are parts of it that I think have. Like you said, like the visuals all look really well.
Yeah, they look really, really
I
good,
mean,
especially
like,
like
yeah, like Dreamcast games still look pretty good. Like that was one of the big things about that console was that, like, it didn't look like muddy, weird pixely stuff like the PS1, the N64, and the Saturn had. Like,
mm-hmm.
this is what games was going to start to look like, with the PS2 onwards. So
Right.
like all those games still look really good even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's very adamant in these re-releases for sure. I think honestly, if like you took this game and you put it out like 15 years later,
Mm-hmm.
I think people would be more like receptive to it than they are.
I think so too. Yeah.
Because like obviously a lot of games like by that time were using just all of the mechanics that had come out of this game. Like there's at the time you like the quote unquote walking simulators where like it's more monotonous gameplay in terms of like you're just going around doing stuff, and that's definitely
Mm-hmm.
a thing in here. QTEs were definitely a thing, even though like they've definitely outworn their welcome, let's say. But
Yeah.
like people were used to them by this point. The combat probably could have been done better, but like it's essentially it's the Virtua Fighter engine that they're using.
Right.
So like if you like that game, like you're probably gonna like the fighting mechanics in this per se. And then I think walking around is probably one of the other parts that could have done better, which they kind of it's like tanky controls a little bit
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how you move around. It's just a little sluggish, but like if you would put this out years later, like obviously that would have been fine tuned to make it a lot better. But then there's a lot of other stuff like going around just like hanging out with people, going and buying stuff, going and
Doing
playing
gotcha.
games. Yeah, like all that stuff that you would have in like Yakuza games is very present in this that
Yep.
people really love.
Yep.
Like all that stuff is in here. It's just it was done before a lot of people had ever experienced it. This was their first ever experience for it, so they just didn't know really what to expect or how to react to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very just it's an interesting game. Like there's no way you can describe it other than that. It's very interesting. It is very ambitious, and the fact that they are able to pull it off is very, just surprising.
It's impressive.
It's very impressive. Like, I don't think they necessarily succeeded at every spot, but I don't
No.
think they necessarily failed at every spot.
No.
It's a wild case study because, like I said, you could see how inflated budgets would become a thing later in the years that followed.
Yep.
Teams getting real big and being like, what are we doing here? Like, there's so many things that you can point back to with this game in particular that influenced or basically became like a prediction of trends that would follow in the years to come.
Right.
That's just very wild that you would think just one singular game would do. Especially this game of all things.
Right.
Considering just how much of a joke it kind of became like after like Shenmue 2.
Mm-hmm.
Cuz like I don't remember, I don't know, I guess to say how much you watched of like video game stuff on TV, but like, I feel like I remember so many like weird skits on like X-Play of them just making fun of Shenmue 2. And it was just like, just because, it's funny. He just goes around asking people where sailors are. What a weird, wacky game. Ha ha ha. Japanese games are weird type of deal.
Yeah.
And like nowadays, like everyone would just be like, oh yeah, that's a game mechanic. Whatever. Who cares?
Right. Like that's the thing we do now.
This is the thing we do now. So yeah, like I said, I think you put this out in the mid 2010s, it has a different like people come to this thing differently. But also, I don't know if people remember it as well as they would if it came out later.
No, I don't think so.
Like it would just be like another like Japanese adventure game that came out in the 2010s. Everyone's like, yeah, that was cool, but whatever. Like it would not be as infamous. It's a very double-edged sword here where like, do you take it where it comes out early and it becomes this very divisive thing and people love it or hate it, or does it come out later and people are more receptive to it, but also it just doesn't become as memorable?
Right.
This game's wild.
It is very wild.
That's the key takeaway. This game's wild. I can go in and just turn off all the lights in my house. Why? Just because.
Why not?
Why not?
With people in the room, even you can just turn the light off on them.
Stop wasting electricity.
You can examine your living dude's piggy bank, and you can check out your pictures in your drawer and go hang out in your squatter toilet.
Mm-hmm.
No idea where we shower.
Why would you want to do that? Why not?
Why not?
Why
go
not?
Go give a cat tofu.
Look, that was a mistake. It was not my fault. Don't blame me.
You still gave the cat tofu and tried to name it Sasuke.
Yeah, it was a cool name. And the girl's like, no, it's a boy's name. I'm like, well, you just got bad names, apparently.
I think it ended up being called Mimi.
Yeah.
Mm,
Then it just disappeared.
yeah. Rip. You fed it, though. You probably gave it the poops every day because you gave it milk, but you had to hydrate it, so.
It's the only thing I could give it.
I know. You gotta hydrate the
It's not like
kitty.
I'm going to give it soda.
No, you can't give it soda. That'd be weird. I'd rather you give it milk and it have runny poops than you give it soda.
Yeah, he doesn't want. We don't want this kitty to burp. Blech.
Bleh.
I think story-wise, this game is kind of just. It's fine, but if you look at it in terms of like what Yu Suzuki was trying to do in terms of like, this is the beginning of a longer story he's trying to tell.
Yeah.
It can make sense.
Yeah.
I will say that I think it's not necessarily bold, but it is an interesting idea that they present you with this antagonist of Lan Di,
Mm-hmm.
who murders your father right in front of you,
Yeah.
and then you never fight him for the rest of the game.
Nope.
He just like disappears.
You don't even really see him. Like, you'll see him in some flashbacks, but you don't actually see him as a person at all.
Until like the end of the game.
Yeah.
So like I think that's a interesting strategy, especially because like you look at how this game was developed and all that sort of stuff, the history of it, how like they had to come together really at the end to like make it come together.
Yeah.
And like having that be your story. And I mean, also they were developing Shenmue 2 at the same time, obviously, so like they knew they were going to make a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like there could have been a thing where if this game flops, like they could have just been like, all right, we're canceling development of this, so
Right.
suck. But also just be like, hey, here's this antagonist. You're not going to do anything with him for this entire game. Like,
Well,
go ahead.
I was gonna say there's also the fact that like you see the like deuteragonist from later games in like a dream at one point, and that's literally all you see of her.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, who's that gal? Shrug shoulders, don't know. Like,
It's very
all right.
it's definitely storytelling that like at the time you would not have really seen,
Right.
of them being just so bold to be like, yeah, we're setting things up for a sequel and doing all this stuff, and there's like, huh?
Huh?
Which I guess also conversely, like this is a very cinematic game
Mm-hmm.
in a way that a lot of games at the time were not cinematic.
Right.
So like that really set this game apart from like literally everything else that was coming out. Like what else was really cinematic at a time besides like Metal Gear Solid? That's basically it. Maybe a few handful of games here and there, but like not in terms of like big releases where like things like trying to be as like cinematic and narrative focused as like this was.
I mean, you've got like the Final Fantasy games at this point.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're necessarily like shot like cinematography wise, like, that they're trying to like do it like kind of like a movie or something like that, like the way this is.
Mm.
Like you could definitely go with that as well, but like they go for it in here, like I think way more than they would in like what Square was doing per se.
Yeah, I was just thinking of like Squall in the car. That's pretty dang cinematic.
Yes, but like I think as well, like they saved a lot of those for like their FMV
Yes, they did.
cutscenes, whereas this
Yes, they
kind of
did.
like was able to go in and out because they just used the same engine.
Yep. No,
So
I
that
agree.
made it a little bit more. But like you said, like outside of maybe like the Final Fantasy cutscenes, Metal Gear Solid was kind of doing the same thing, but like there really wasn't much else that was kind of doing this at the time.
It's pretty unique in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, man. Like, who doesn't love a good revenge story?
Yeah,
But then
it's true.
I don't even think it even like ends with a revenge story, does it? Like I
No,
don't
you're getting like the beginning of the revenge story here. Like the end of this is just you going off to like, okay, I'm gonna go find him and get my revenge.
Oh no, I mean like the actual series that we have so far. Like
Oh yeah, I don't know.
I think it veers even further off of the revenge story from that, but like yeah,
I,
we get no revenge in the first game. We get all right, cool, we got a ticket, let's go.
I mean, there was like some Yu Suzuki quote that was like, the first two games were like the first like 3 or 4 parts out of a 12-part story that he wanted to create with Shenmue.
Oh my god.
So like, yeah, he's been wilding for a while.
Man. You know what they should have done?
What's that?
It wouldn't have worked because it wouldn't have done what he wanted it to do, but should have just like let him do like a spirits within type thing and tell his story.
I mean, I wonder if that's what they're kind of trying to do with the anime.
Maybe because like if he's thinking that there are that many parts and we've only gotten 3 games in like 20 something years, we're not getting that full story ever. Unless
True.
he releases it in like a movie or a book.
I mean, there's already been Shenmue the movie.
Well, does it have like the full story?
It was just a compilation of the first game's cutscenes.
Great. Uh so again, like unless we're actually going like if we want the full story of this, like he's gonna have to like either speed it up or think of something alternate here on how we make this happen.
Yeah, I know that quote I think came out before 3.
Yeah.
So I don't know like exactly where things leave off at 3. Like, is he like, does he feel satisfied with it, or is he thinking like, all right, time to make another one of these?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, we'll get to that point eventually when we talk about 3, so we'll eventually
Yeah.
figure that out. But yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, this whole series I feel like is just like I said, just interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, like it's not what I expected. But I was into it.
Yeah.
And like I appreciate what it was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's not all bad.
No, and I think like that's the thing that a lot of people just kind of look at when they see the series is that like they see all the jokes and memes of it and they're just like, oh, it's just bad,
Right.
and don't really necessarily give it a try. Which I think these re-releases do do some good things. Like they modernize some of the control stuff and make it a little bit easier for you to get around and do all that sort of stuff. Like there's like right stick and camera control, which obviously was not a thing on the Dreamcast.
Right. Woo.
Which makes it a little bit easier to get around and do all sorts of stuff like that. So that's a little bit easier. I'm understanding of the people who think like the forklift stuff is just very monotonous and not what they want. Like I completely understand that.
Right.
I didn't find it that bad. Like I thought it was kind of just like calming. It's calming in the same way that like something like Death Stranding is calming
Ugh.
of like the package delivery stuff of just like going from point A to point B and doing that stuff. Like that gameplay is kind of similar in that aspect. Which again, I would understand why people wouldn't like that. So it's one of those things where, if you don't like it, yeah, I totally get that. But for me, I thought it was okay. Just driving around on your forklift, going around, beep, beep,
Beep beep.
doing that sort of stuff. Like I thought going into it, I would hate it.
Yeah.
But I
Like
came
we were
out of
making
it.
jokes about it to begin with.
Yeah, but I came out of it being like, oh, this is all right.
Yeah.
This isn't bad.
I mean, we just chatted the whole time while you were forklifting.
Yeah.
Like
I think it might have got worse if like you weren't following a guide, so like you had to do more days and you just had to keep doing that.
yeah, that's fair.
I think that's when it would start to get like a little way too monotonous. But the way we did it, I think it was fine because we only did like a handful of days of it, and each day was a different thing, so it switched it up on you enough to make it not just like the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that.
Yeah, I think that that helps that we actually like didn't have to just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep
Mm-hmm.
doing it.
For
Oof.
sure.
I didn't even think about that.
We also learned that Rio just does not understand what romance is.
Oh my god. That romance story is whew. Oh
Something.
boy.
I love how the guy kept telling us like, "Oh, there's a heartwarming scene coming up," and every time we'd come out of it, be like, "Huh?
Huh?
Was that really heartwarming?"
Was it? Yeah, it was awkward. Like I, I was an awkward teenager. I get it. But also like, oh my god. There were so many things. Like there was even a scene where she's like, "Oh, hey, I'm going to confess to you. I really like you." And he's like, "I don't know how I feel." And then there's another part where like he's talking to her and he's like, "You're a really great friend." And she's like, "Oh,
Oh, I gotta go.
I gotta
I gotta
go.
go help work at the flower shop. See you later.
Goodbye." And she's like, "I'm gonna go back to Canada." And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And you're like,
I'm going to Hong Kong.
okay. Like, maybe try and stop me from going to Canada. No, no, I'm going to Hong Kong. It's fine. You go to Canada. Have fun. It's like, buddy, dude, come on.
So bad.
Like, oh man, that is not okay. So I've mentioned this before, probably on the podcast, but I know I've mentioned it to you in person, or I've mentioned it to you in general, and I've mentioned it to other people. But like, I'm pretty oblivious when people like have a thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not this level of dumb energy. Like, I think, well, I'm not even gonna say I think. Like, she blatantly says, like, "I like you," and he's like, "Oh,
Huh. Okay.
okay." So about that revenge, it's like, buddy, 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 come on, come on, get it together. But yeah, he just, oof, that romance is, huh,
The funniest part about it is like they very much established this as a thing,
yeah.
and then just write her off.
She's going to Canada.
Yeah.
We got to put a new girl in.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's romance or not, but I don't know what's coming next.
Also, they write out Tom. This is very sad.
Yeah, he had to go to America.
Tom, best character of the game.
He's pretty good,
He's
except for
always
his like
vibing.
clown on his truck. I didn't like that, but yeah, he is always vibing.
They showed him in the first episode of the anime, and I was like, all right, good. We've got it.
Yep.
Tom's in.
Yep.
Solid.
He's going back to America though.
Where's our Tom hot dog simulation game?
Like
Go sell hot
honestly,
dogs.
there was a better love story between Tom and Rio than there was. Because like at the end he's like, "Oh, you're one of my best friends," and then you see like the airplane fly away, and
He's like,
like
Tom.
it was like a beautiful moment. But that
They do
was
that cool fist bump.
right.
Oh, it's real good.
You get way more of an interaction with them than you do with him and God, I forgot her name.
Nozomi.
Nozomi, thank you.
You're not wrong, honestly.
I was like, oh man, what is this?
You're not wrong. Wild.
Yep.
Oh man.
Oh, Tom.
Shouts out to Tom.
And his gal friend that he didn't get until the harbor.
No, she's there. She's there at times as well.
Oh, is she? I didn't notice
Mhm.
her.
She just shows up at like random times. I think she's like more like there at night.
Oh, okay. So she's more of a wandering NPC than a I'm gonna vibe by my truck NPC.
Yeah, she's random.
Okay. Makes sense.
But yeah. This game's weird.
This game is very weird. All that is to say though, like I'm interested to see where it goes.
Honestly, I am too.
Yeah, like I really I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
I came away with like a all right kind of feeling. Like wasn't sure I was gonna come out with that, but I did.
same. I think this is like if you can get these games for cheap, which I did, like you
Hmm.
can if they go on sale, like you can get all three of them for cheap. I think the best way to do this though is like play through the first one with a guide, obviously, because this the
Yes.
way this game's obtuse and everything. It's just gonna make it a better experience for you
Yes.
overall. Playing through it and everything. I don't know how that goes for 2 and 3 per se, because I don't know if they modernize things or anything like that. We're probably going to do a guide for 2, most likely, considering they developed it at the same time as 1. So it's probably going to be something like similar.
Hmm.
I would assume at least. I don't know how it is for 3, but at least for this first one, like just find yourself a guide, play through it, see if you like it, and just see what you think of old Shenmue.
Hmm.
See how you feel about forklift racing
And revenge
and revenge.
and quote unquote romance.
Yes, romance.
Romance. We had a better love story with the gotcha machines.
That's also true.
We got tails. That's really all that matters.
We did get Tails and 2 Sonics and a Knuckles. We didn't get Super Sonic though, because we didn't get win the Tomato Mart lottery for him.
We did get like all of the fighting game characters, like all the Sonic fighting game characters.
Yeah.
That was weird.
If you really want to know, if you want that hot Sonic the Fighters lore, it's in Shenmue with the gotcha machines. Oh man.
We got some Eggman.
We did get some Eggman.
There was something else that there was one that I was like, I think it was a meow or something. You were making fun of me about it.
Yeah. We also got Alex Kidd, who looked like a character from a Monkey Ball.
Yeah, he looked like a Monkey Ball character. Monkey
That's
Ball
where
wasn't even out at that point, right?
Negoshi just saw that figure they made of Alex Kidd and was like, this looks like I could put it in a capsule and just run it around. What if I made Monkey Ball?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that kind of, yeah. I'd buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. And we got to play some arcade games in that.
Yeah.
Get some tapes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There was the one like bald pervert man who you fought in the arcade.
That guy is just a menace.
Yeah, he is. He's like Gollum. And he's not really explained at all why he is anything like that.
No, he's just a dude who just wants to work for Land D and
Be Gollum.
be Gollum. That was before those movies even came out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shouts out to Shenmue inspiring Gollum.
I'm pretty sure. Hold on.
Because, like, the first one was, like, '01, right?
That sounds right. I was still living in Tennessee at the time. Let's see. Film series 01. Yes.
Hilarious.
This is the origin of Gollum. Pretty sure. I mean,
believe it.
there's too much that's similar for it to not been some kind of inspiration, I think. And if
I
not,
believe it.
then they're lying to us.
I also believe that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. We have a whole other girl character to just show up at some point. We'll see what happens. We're going to China.
Yep.
We should probably like have the harbor people investigated for hiring a non-licensed high schooler to do forklifts while we were also being like truant and not going to school.
And also, there's a gang being there and no one caring.
Yeah, no one cares if there's a gang there. Is that homeless man that keeps getting beat up? Like, stop beating up the homeless man.
There's a lot of stuff happening there.
Chaos. Chaos.
No, that's next month.
And it's next month. I'm real excited about it.
Chaos.
I'm real excited about that.
I bet you are.
Oh yeah, you are too. You know it.
Yes, that's not wrong. Oh man. So yeah, we'll eventually get to what Shenmue 2 and 3 at some point.
Yeah, we've kind of gone on a wild tangent at the moment, so
Yeah, we have.
we'll come back to it eventually. You did this to yourself
I did do this to myself. You're not wrong.
and me.
Also you, but
I
I'm excited to see where this goes for
am
sure.
too. I'm legitimately excited, and I have the anime episodes recording, and I will eventually catch up on it.
Yeah, but
Uh,
we should say like that thing is airing right now. Like as of this recording, there's 3 episodes out. There'll be 4 by the time this comes out. Um, it's a more straightforward approach to the first game story per se. Like they cut out a lot of like the side stuff,
mhm.
and it's just kind of like focusing in on the actual story of the game, which you can take or leave depending on how you feel about how game adaptations in anime are done like that.
Right.
So that can either be good or bad for you per se. But animation wise, it seems all right. Some
Nozomi
of the
doesn't look anything like
yeah, some
Nozomi
of the
though.
character designs are a little weird compared to how like the game is and all that sort of stuff. But like overall, I think it's doing a fine job of trying to tell the Shenmue story. And it seems like they're gonna like combine the first and second games together,
Hmm.
at least in this first season. I don't know like how far they're gonna go with it, but that's the way it seems thus far.
Um, and they also made the toupee man look less toupee-ish.
They did make him less toupee-ish. Also, they got a gotcha capsule machine figure of Tails in there, and then didn't show him.
Yeah,
They didn't show him just like sitting there in front of the capsule machine, just turning it for like hours until he got it, which is a shame.
big shame, but it showed that he was into it, and he had to show off his tails.
Hmm.
I'm glad that they went with tails. That makes me happy.
So yeah, that's Shenmue.
Shenmue. We'll see
Shenmue.
how it goes from here on out. Where we're gonna eventually get back to the series and see what happens, and maybe there'll be a conclusion someday. I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows?
We
Not me.
will eventually we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually we will see. But that's gonna do it for this episode, I believe.
I think so.
For sure. So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared and Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, A Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early, and a wealth of bonus content as well.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, we'll talk about something else.
So then.
Something.
Mm.